communications plan and messaging. So this next section of the crisis communication plan is going to actually allow you to pre-create your messaging in a crisis situation. And it sounds crazy. I remember thinking this in the beginning, there's no way I can come up with a message before a hazard happens when I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. I don't have a crystal ball. But you know what? Shockingly, you really can do this. And so what we're going to do for this next bit is we're actually going to break out our audiences. We're going to have a plan per audience, and we're going to identify how we're going to communicate with them and what we're going to say in different scenarios. So let's get into it, and I'll show you how this works. So you can see here right at the top, the very first line item is the audience. So maybe we identified already that our staff are a critical audience that we need to communicate with in a crisis situation. So what we're going to do is up here at the audience part, we're going to say staff. And then we're going to move down to this next box, and we've already pre-populated a little bit of information here to give you some ideas and examples, but maybe actually your staff, because you've talked to them in advance, they've already identified that they want to find out information from you via phone calls and emails. And so you know, because you talked to them in advance, that's how they like to receive information from you if there's a situation that's happening that they need to know about. So the next little section here is actually pre-populated messages that have placeholders. And it's pretty amazing because these messages can actually work in any kind of a situation. And I'm going to show you exactly how this works. Follow along with me here, and we're going to go through a pre-hazard message, and I'm going to populate into these placeholders different items so you can see how this plays out. So our pre-hazard message, let's imagine that we are a home hardware in Clearwater and there's a wildfire that's coming. So it hasn't actually impacted our community yet, so it's a pre-hazard message, and this is how it's going to read. We'll start off here, it'll say, instead of company name, we're going to say, Home Hardware is aware of the impending wildfire that is scheduled to impact Clearwater on June 24th. Some people laugh at the idea of a scheduled wildfire, but in actual fact, sometimes they will actually forecast when an impact might happen for certain hazards. So this lets people know when it's kind of anticipated to actually happen. We will continue to monitor the situation and send updates as needed. Please check with BC Wildfire Services for additional information about the impending wildfire. So there you go. That exact same message can also work with a flood. Let's take the same templated message and let's show how it will work with a flood. Home Hardware is aware of the impending flood that's scheduled to impact Clearwater on July 24th. We will continue to monitor the situation and send updates as needed. Please check with the River Forecast Center for additional information about the impending flood. So there you go. That's a very concise message. It tells just enough information to your staff, what they need to know before a hazard strikes, that you're aware of it, where to find out more information, and that it's scheduled to impact the office, and there's likely going to be impact at the office. So that's a perfect example of a pre-templated message. So what you can do is actually in this tool, you can make this all for the staff. And when you get done, there's also an after event message, whether you're impacted, or an after event message, whether you're not impacted. And so you can have all this pre-templated out for your staff, but after that, you can click this little plus button down here, and you can add a whole other crisis communication plan messaging for a different audience. So let's say the next one is actually your customers. And maybe your customers like to find out information via Facebook, Twitter, and your website. So you have that already pre-populated. And again, you've got these pre-populated messages that can work for your customers as well. Feel free to work with these templates and modify them to make sure that they make sense for you. We've pre-populated them for you just to make it as easy as possible to come up with your own crisis communication plan. And this will save you trying to wordsmith a message in the heat of a moment when you might be worried about maybe causing social harm or impacting the perception out there in the community with your staff or your clients. Don't worry about all that. Take time now when you're not in a crisis situation to wordsmith out the perfect message that's just concise enough so that way you're ready in case you are faced with a hazard situation.